Hey guys, welcome to Master and Learn It. In this video, we're going to be learning about rounding off to the nearest three significant figures, rounding off to the nearest two decimal place, rounding off to the nearest whole number, to the nearest tenth, hundredth, and thousandth. So let's get started. So when we have a number like 123.456, right? How do we read these numbers? The number to the first number to your left after the comma is the units, followed by the tens as well as the hundredth. And the first number immediately after the comma to your right is the tenth. So we call it the tenth. Then the following one is the hundredth. And the following one is the thousandth. Right. So this is how we read the number. The number immediately after the comma is the tenth, hundredth, thousandth, as it goes. But the first number immediately after the comma to your left is the units. So we want to know how to round these numbers. Remember, the basis for rounding off doesn't change. It remains simple. We know that numbers from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, all these numbers round down to 0, and 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. These numbers round up to 10. And remember, when you see such a number, we always add 1 to the following number. So let us have our first example that says, can you round 43? So we have 43.2431. They say to three significant figures. What does it mean to round to three significant figures? It means we only need the first three numbers, the first non-zero digits. So three significant figures we mean we need the first three non-zero digits. So that means we need 1, 2, 3. This is a non-zero, of course, so we need 1, 2, 3. These are the only digits that we're interested in. So we look at the following number here, which is 4. Will 4 round up or down? We know that 4 rounds down to 0. So this is going to be 0, 0, 0. In these numbers, the remains the same, 43.2. So we only need three significant figures. These ones, we're not going to write them. So it's going to be 43.2. How about rounding off? How about rounding off 56.789 to three significant figures? Remember, three significant figures means we need the first three non-zero digits. So we need 1, 2, 3. These are our first three non-zero digits. So we look at the number immediately after the non-zero digit, which is 8. Will 8 round up or down? And we know that from 5 up to 9 they round to 10. So we come to this number and say plus 1. So that means this is going to be 56.1 plus 7, that becomes 8. These become 0, 0. And remember, we are only interested in three significant numbers. So these ones, we don't write them. It's going to be 56. So that's going to be 56.8. How about rounding 0.006015 to three significant figures? So rounding to three significant figures, remember we said we need the first non-zero digit. So here there is a 0, I don't count. There is a 0, I don't count. There is a 0, I don't count. There is a non-zero digit, so I need 1, 2, 3. These are the only three numbers that I need. So I look at the number immediately after the three digits, which is 5. So will 5 round up or down? Here it is, 5 is right here. It's going to round up to 10. And what do? We say plus 1 to the next number. So since 5 is going to round up, we come right here and say plus 1. So what's going to be our final answer? It's going to be 0.00601 plus 1, that's 2, and we don't write 5. Why? Because we only need the first three non-zero digits, isn't it? So our final answer is going to be 0.00 602. So that means this is the very same trick. If you were to round to two significant figures, you only need two non-zero digits. How about rounding off to 2 decimal place, 3 decimal place, 4 decimal place? What does that really mean? Rounding off to 2 decimal place or 3 decimal place means we only need 2 numbers after the comma. So we're going to write the very first numbers, and just after the comma, we only need 2 numbers. So in this case, we have 43.2431. Rounding off to 2 decimal places means we only need 2 numbers after the comma. So where are these numbers? We only need these 2 guys. So we ask 3. Will 3 round up or down? 3 obviously is going to round down. So you 3, you're going to be 0 and you're going to be 0. So my final answer is going to be 43.24. We only need 2 numbers after the comma. So that's going to be 43.24. Right, rounding the following number, which is 56.789 to 2 decimal places, means we really need to have 2 numbers after the comma. So the numbers that we need after the comma are these. This is the comma, so 1, 2. We only need these 2 numbers after the comma. So we're going to ask 9. Will 9 round up or down? Obviously, 9 is going to round up to 10. So what do? We say plus 1. So I come here to this number and say plus 1. So what does that mean? I still going to have my 5, 56.7, 8 plus 1, that's 9. And 9 runs down to 0, isn't it? But remember, we only need 2 numbers after the comma. So there's no need of writing this. So we're going to have 56. That's going to be 56.79. How about rounding 0.00615? So rounding 0.6015 to 2 decimal places means we only need 2 numbers after the comma. So these are the only numbers that I'm interested in after the comma. So I'm going to ask the number immediately after that, which is 6. So I'm going to say 6. Are you going to round up or down? And here's a clue. 6 is right here, so it's going to round up. So we're going to say plus 1. So we come and say plus 1. So our final answer is going to be 0.00 plus 1, that's 1, and 6 rounds to 0000. But remember, we only need 2 numbers after the comma, so all these ones I don't need to write them. So that's gonna be 0.01. That's simple, right? So rounding up to the nearest whole number is the same as rounding off to the nearest unit. And we all know that a unit is the number immediately after the comma to the left. So we have 43.2431. To the nearest whole number or unit, we just need we look at the number immediately just after the comma, because this is our unit just after the comma to the left. So we look at the number just after the comma. In this case, I want to round to this is a unit, isn't it? So we look at 2. Will 2 round up or down? 2 is right here, so it's going to round down. So it's going to be 43.0000. But remember, we're rounding to the nearest unit. We just need the units only. So the rest of the guys and the comma, they go away. We are left with 43, which is a whole number, isn't it? Rounding off 56.789 to the nearest whole number, we just need to be left with numbers after the comma. We don't need a comma. So we look at the guy here who originated with the comma right here, which is the 10th. And we say 7, are you going to round up or down? And we know that 7 is right here, is going to round up to 10. So what do we say? Plus 1. So we come here and say plus 1. So we have 5, 6 plus 1, that's 7. So we don't need a comma here. This is gonna be 0, 0, 0. And remember, we're rounding to the nearest whole number or unit. We only need the units. So the rest of these guys, they go away, and we are left with 57. So rounding off 0.006015 to the nearest whole number. So this is the whole number, which is the unit, isn't it? So we look at this number, which is 0. Does 0 round up or down? It's already 0, so it just remains 0. So the rest is just gonna be 0, 0, 0, 0, and our whole number or unit becomes 0. And we only need these units, so these guys we don't really need to write them, so that just rounds down to 0. Then we have this type of rounding to the nearest tenth, not tens, to the nearest hundredth, thousandth. How do we do that? Rounding off to the nearest tenth. Remember, a tenth is just the immediate number to the left after the comma. So this is our tenth. So rounding off to the nearest tenth, they simply say we only want to be left with the tenth or the number after the comma. In other words, it simply says to one decimal place. Because to one decimal place means one number after the comma, and the one number after the comma is just the 10, isn't it? So rounding off 43.2431 to the nearest tenth. A tenth is the first number to the right after the comma. So we only need this guy. So this is the units, these are tens, hundred. This is the tenth, hundredth, thousandth as they go. So they say to the nearest tenth. I want to be left with this tenth, so I look at this number, which is 4. Does 4 round up or down? 4 rounds down to 0. So 4, you're going to be 0, and the rest of your friend are going to be 0, isn't it? So we are left with 43.2. So we don't need to write these ones. So 43.2431 to the nearest tenth is 43.2. So that's 43.2. Rounding 56.789 to the nearest tenth. Where is my tenth? Remember, this is units, tens. So this is the tenth. So I just want to be left with the tenth. So we look at this guy, which is 8. Does 8 round up or down? 8 is going to round up to 10. So we say plus 1. So we come here and say plus 1. So 8, you're going to become 0. 9 becomes 0. 7 plus 1, that's 8.65. So this, remember, we are interested to the tenth. We only need the tenth, so there's no need of writing these numbers. So 56.789 to the nearest tenth is 56.8. So that's 56.8. Rounding 0.006015 to the nearest tenth. Where are our tenth? Remember, this is units. The number just after the comma is the tenth. So we want this. So we'll look at this guy. Will 0 round up or down? 0 just remains 0. So this is gonna be 0, 0, 0, 0, and this is 0, and this is 0. So it's just 0.0. 0.0 is just as good as 0, isn't it? In this case, for you, I'm just gonna write it at 0.0, but 0.0 just means 0. Then rounding to the hundredth. Hundredth just means the second number after the comma, which is this one. So we just need the second number or two numbers after the comma. So 43.2431 to the nearest hundredth. This is my units, so this is my tenth hundredth. So I need this, so I look at the number immediately after the hundredth. So does 3 round up or does 3 round down? 3 is right here, it rounds down to 0, so 3 becomes 0, and all the numbers following after 3 become 0. So my final answer is going to be 43.24. So there's no need of writing this. I have rounded to the nearest 100th. I have 2 numbers after the comma. Then, so that becomes 43.24. Then rounding 56.789 to the nearest 100th. This is my unit, this is my 10th, then this is my 100th. So I need this number, so I only need this 100th. I look at 9. Does 9 round up or down? 9 rounds up to 10, so we say plus 1. So I come here and say plus 1. So 9 automatically becomes 0. 8 plus 1, that's 9, 7.56. So to the nearest 100th, I only need these 2 numbers, so there's no need of writing this 0. That becomes 56.79. That's 56.79. Rounding 0.006015 to the nearest 100th. So this is my comma, so this is my 10th, this is my 100th. So I look at this guy, which is 6. 6, do you round up or down? And we know that 6 is here, it rounds up to 10. So what do we do? Plus 1. So we come and say, since 6 rounds up, plus 1. So what do we have? 6 you're gonna become 0, and the rest of the numbers become 0. 1 plus 0, that's 1. We have our 0 and our comma. So these all numbers gonna be disappearing, and we're left with 0.01, which is 0.01. That's pretty simple, isn't it? So rounding off to the nearest 100th is pretty simple. It's just follow the same basics. So rounding 43.231 to the nearest 1000th. Where's the position of the 1000th? Look at your comma. These are the 10th, 100th, 1000th. So we want to have the 1000th or the 3 numbers after the comma, isn't it? So we have 43.243.1. So this is our 10th, 100th, 1000th. So this is the number we're interested in. So we look at the number immediately after the 1000th, which is 1. Does 1 round up or down? 1 is right here, it's gonna round down to 0. So you're gonna be 0. 3 is not gonna change. 4 remains the same. 2 remains the same. 3 remains the same. And since we only need the 100th, this guy is eliminated. So we're left with 43.243. So that's 43.243. Rounding 56.789 to the nearest. So I'm just gonna add another number here. Let me just say 7 in this case, isn't it? So rounding to the nearest 1000th, so we need 10th, 100th, 1000th. So this is what we need. These are the 1000th that we need. So we'll look at the number immediately after the 1000th, which is 7, isn't it? So does 7 round up or down? 7 is gonna round up to 10. So we say plus 1. So we come and say plus 1 here. So 7 becomes 0. 1 plus 9, that's 10. 0 carry 1. 8 plus 1, that's 9. 7 remains the same. 6 remains the same. 5 remains the same. So since we just needed to the nearest to the 1000th, which is this number, this disappears. So we're left with 56.790, which is 56.790. Then doing the last one, 0.006015 to the nearest 1000th. So where are the thousands? By now you should know this is our unit, tenth, hundredth, thousandth. So we need only this one. So we ask this 0. Does 0 round up or down? So 0 goes down and remains 0, isn't it? So you're gonna remain 0, and the rest of these guys are gonna be 0. 6 is not gonna change, this 0 is not gonna change, this 0 is not gonna change, and this 0 is not gonna change. Since we're rounding to the thousandth, all these guys are eliminated. So we're left with 0.006. So that's round down to 0.006. Right guys, that's how we can round off these numbers. Thanks for watching the video, and always remember to subscribe and like.